Welcome to Veteran Voices. I'm your host, Jay Baker, and today we have the Governor General, Her Excellency Mary Simon. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. I know that you have a lot of roles and responsibilities as Governor General, and one of them is Commander-in-Chief of the military. How does that make you feel, being the Commander-in-Chief, the top soldier?
It's a wonderful part of my work. I admire and get inspired by talking to individuals that are serving our country and the world. And I find that each and every one of those people has a story to tell me. Right. If I just spend enough time, with them. And there's so many challenges that perhaps we don't know enough about that they undergo. So every time I go and visit a base, and I've been here across the country and also internationally, I find that for me it's very rewarding to be able to do this work, and also it's very inspiring, I think. I mean, you see how these soldiers, men and women, what kind of really tough situations they can, end up in because they're serving the country for us to be free and, able to do what we're doing.
Right. Now, you've talked to a lot of people on your travels, and you've talked to a lot of soldiers. What have you learned from your conversations with them?
There's been a few in places where I've gone where I was talking about mental health in some of my speeches, because I like to tell whatever audience I have that we need to take care of our physical and our mental health together. And there have been times when I've spent time talking to individuals who are experiencing some very difficult challenges personally, and a lot of it has to do with what they've been confronted with, and to talk about how to reach out and ask for help, that it's not a weakness, it's a strength, and that to be able to do that,
And what's been your biggest reason for deciding to go with mental health?
I have been very passionate about mental health for a very long time. I come from the Arctic, where the rate of suicide is very high. I have personally lost family members to suicide.
Okay.
And I just have felt for a long time that we need to have this conversation together as a country, and to be able to identify what it is that we need to get the support that people need. And one of the things that comes up a lot of the time is peer support.
Right.
It's because peer support means it can be somebody from your community that doesn't have to be brought in for a special period of time, and then they go back home, so you're still left with no one in your community. Yes. So the discussion about peer support is really interesting, because if we could get some people in the communities or in places like here, anywhere, give them some training how to deal with someone that's experiencing or is suicidal, and how to help them, get out of that particular critical moment or critical time, then I feel that we would have a lot more people helping.
And that's a big thing, even in our community as veterans and serving members. We don't have a tendency to talk outside of our own group. A civilian member won't understand, so we stay very quiet professional, if you will. So having a peer that could sit down with you and it's like, oh yeah, I've been to the sandbox, I understand, I think goes a long way.
Yeah, and lived experience is, I think, one of the ways in which people can do that. And, unfortunately, we have many people that have lived the experience.
Yes.
Of having, mental health challenges, and I think once you recover from that, then you are in a better position. You're a stronger individual for having recovered from that period. So it's a very, very important conversation that we're having.
Right. And now I've done a lot of research, and there's one Inuit word that comes up all the time, and I apologize because I know I'm going to say it wrong, but and I've been trying to practice, but Anunata?
That's pretty close.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you explain what it is and,
Okay.
and why it's your mandate for being Governor General?
Yes, well, Ayuinata, it's a word in my language, in the Inuit language, that I often heard during my upbringing when I was a youth. And it means never give up.
Okay.
Against all odds. And for me, it kind of mirrors what the armed forces is, never give up until,
right.
You're out of a situation or you've resolved an issue. And when President Zelensky was in Ottawa, he came to visit me at Rideau Hall, and I taught him that word.
Okay.
Because when I was looking at him, I could just feel that he was Ayuinata,
Right.
So he took it to heart, and when he was speaking in the Parliament after we had our meeting, he used it in his speech, at the end of his speech, to inspire his own people back in Ukraine, because they need hope, that you have to
Yes.
give hope, even when these situations are so dire, that people are suffering. So as a leader, he was inspiring not only us that were listening to him, but also his own people. So that's something that I use quite a lot in my work, because I've been through situations, and sometimes it's challenging
Yes.
not to give up, and you have to overcome that period and just learn from the adversity you might have been experiencing. And I know in the armed forces it's even more challenging with post-traumatic challenging situations that they end up in
Right.
after being in a war-torn country.
Well, and that's the thing, like on the battlefield, we don't give up. We're strong and solid, but translating that back home, sometimes that's a little bit more of a challenge because our guard is down, and it's a little easier, I think, to give up at home than it is on the battlefield because you don't have your buddies beside you and whatnot. But
Yeah, and you feel more vulnerable too,
Yeah.
So, and I think it's a good thing, because you wouldn't want to hold that for the rest of your life.
No.
So it's a good thing to deal with it and get the support that you need. Not you personally, but people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what do you want your legacy to be as Governor General?
I'm not. Legacy for me is doing my job the way I can, the best way that I can, and for people to remember that I did what I could to bring people together in Canada, because part of my mandate is really about reconciliation between Indigenous peoples living in Canada and also other Canadians.
Right.
Because of our dark history, it's been extremely difficult because of residential schools and the traumas that individuals experienced during those periods. It has been difficult, the conversation to have in Canada. But since I became Governor General, I just took on additional responsibilities that other people have been working on for a very long time, because for me, reconciliation is a lifelong experience. It doesn't
Right.
end. We're always reconciling. We're always, trying to make sure our relationships are working. So reconciliation is a lifelong experience. But within that, What's really rewarding for me is to be able to get to know Canadians and to bring them together, because I often bring people together to talk about specific issues that they care about as Canadians. And you know, I have so many, my legacies could be unending. I have a long list.
Well, that could be always a good thing, right? I know we don't have too much more time left, but do you have any advice for that young soldier who might be sitting in the barracks suffering in silence?
That's a challenging question. I think I even sometimes when I'm speaking to the armed forces at bases, I sometimes visualize maybe what they might be experiencing, especially when I went to France, to Vimy Ridge and to Beaumont-Hamel this past summer. I could just imagine what it might have been like, not
Right.
that I would ever know how it felt, but just imagining like what those individuals had to deal with. And my message is to keep in touch with your colleagues and your friends, and give each other the energy and the strength and the never give up approach or attitude with what you're doing, and try and be safe. You know, these are things that we all have to think about in terms of what our soldiers are doing, the armed forces. I think we owe them a great deal of gratitude for the fine work that they do, and the energy and the commitment that they make.
Right, and
Both not just in Canada but internationally.
right, because we're everywhere. We have guys deployed kind of all over the place, and it's amazing how, you know, we bring our Canadian values around and do the best job that we can, and it's important for us to stick together when we finally come home and reach out to your buddies.
Yeah.
For sure.
One word can make a difference.
It can.
Do I have time to tell you a really quick story?
Of course.
Okay, so this was some years ago. I wasn't the Governor General, but I was the president of an organization called ITK, Inuit Tapiriq Kanatamin, the national voice of the Inuit. And we had a youth section, and they had a youth magazine. So they wanted me to write something in the youth magazine. So I told my story when I went through burnout and the depression that I had to overcome. And there was a young man up in the Arctic, in Iqaluit. He was on the verge of committing suicide. I saw him after, and that's why I know the story. He read the little article that I wrote, and he said, just reading our little article, that you can actually reach out for help, which is the message I was giving, meant so much to him that he did reach out for help.
Good.
And he survived. And
Fantastic.
I met him, you know, some months later, and when he saw me, he just grabbed a hold of me and wouldn't let me go.
Right.
So that is really, for me, that's what this is about. Tell your story. It shouldn't be a shameful thing to be able to say that, you know, you're experiencing a difficult time. Because when we have physical ailments and everything, we tell the doctor, we tell our family,
Yeah.
but when it comes to our mind, we tend not to do that. And I always remind people that our mental and physical health are tied very closely together.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's been many times where, yeah, you can treat the injury. You see that, oh, you've lost a leg or you've broken arm, but that mental injury is an individual
Yeah.
injury, and yeah, we don't talk about it, and it's almost that shame. So
It's getting a little better. I think the stigma is a little bit less, but I think that we still have a long way to go.
right. Well, thank you very much. I know that's kind of all the time that we have today, but I really appreciate you being on the show today, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.